questions, talk to each other. You know, if you want to shout out the places that you're drawing from, go ahead and do that too. I am here in Philadelphia right now. Yeah, West Philly. Yes, Philly folks. Oh my gosh, New Zealand, wow. You might be the furthest person geographically from me right now. More Pennsylvania folks, San Francisco, used to live in Berkeley, so like, I vibe. Wish, you know, always wishing that I could go back. Hello to all the other folks joining us and welcome. More Philly folks, yay. And yeah, if you haven't already, go ahead and grab any tools of your choice for doodling, and we will get started shortly. All right, let's kick it off then. So again, welcome to the Thinking Through Doodles workshop, being run by The Believer through their Friday night comics session, or their Friday night comics workshops. I'm super excited to be hosting this today. My name is JS, and I am a amateur, not professional, but I am an amateur doodler, as I think that all doodlers should be amateurs. But yeah, I'm really excited to host tonight, seeing as I've been to a lot of these workshops as a student, and so it's a little bit wild for me. I'm a little bit nervous, but super stoked to see everyone else's doodles tonight and walk you through a little bit of my own process. So I'm just gonna kick off by showing you a little bit of what I do. I'm gonna share screen. Yes. All right, but yeah, so again, this is the Believer Friday Night Comics Workshop on Thinking Through Doodles, and little character is me. So I do some comics, obviously. On the left, I do a lot of autobiographical stuff, just like very loosely working through things. And as someone with ADHD, doodling is something that I do fairly religiously and compulsively. And then on the right is actually something that I'm working on for The Believer. That's coming out in a couple months, in a couple issues, but sneak peek of some things that I work on. But yeah, by day, however, I am a PhD student. I work on English literature, and then doodling is sort of my side hustle. I have also done some storyboard work. This is some storyboards that I did for the 2018 film, Sorry to Bother You, directed by Boots Riley. Highly recommend watching it if you haven't. But yeah, I have, you know, gone through a couple phases in my art journey. And mostly though, these days, how I'm working, because most of my time is occupied reading a lot of books, writing a lot of essays, I am working on sticky notes, which are my preferred form and also something that kind of currently appears in even the iconography that I use when I'm drawing more serious comics. But these are some things that I did for 24-hour comics, when you sort of document your day, draw a comic for every hour of your day. But I did all of that on sticky notes because I think it's a really nice mobile form for working. Highly recommend doing that. Great form for doodling in. And this is the aftermath of that. This is my cat Flea, and she might make an appearance at some point because she loves to get on the table whenever she sees that I am working on it. Anyways, so getting on though to the sort of meat of everything, we are going to be talking about doodling and all of the scenarios where one might doodle. So perhaps what we're most familiar with is kind of doodling as distraction, when we're sitting in our classrooms, sitting in those long Zoom meetings, and you know, we kind of have our camera angled extra high so that we can have our sheet of paper below and be working through that. So these are just some different modes that I find myself doodling in, and of course, a little comic to the right on the wonderful Zoom experience, although this is probably the most fun Zoom that I've ever been in. And there's also doodling as exploration, really kind of working through lines and marks and abstract expressionist ways, or figuring out ways to get around paneling. So there's all sorts of modes of doodling through doodling as exploration. And what the highlight of our workshop is, doodling as thinking. And I have just projected up here a couple different ways that I've doodled my way towards a thought. On the left is actually a book summary doodle that I did after reading a fantastic book called Frame by Frame by Hannah Frank. In the middle is a doodle set that I made during a lecture, and I was just kind of sketching along. It was a film class. And on the right is a doodle through a day. And I doodled kind of a dream that I had. And these were just kind of ways of processing. And that is sort of the beginning of, these are some modes that we're thinking about doodling, our sort of conceptual framework for the doodle, which is something that is very conceptless. And I will kick us off with our actual workshop now. I'm going to stop the share. Here we go. Alrighty, and I'm going to switch us. So get your materials if you haven't already, and we will start off with 3 panels. Hang on, I'm going to switch my camera. All right. Hopefully you can all see my sheet of paper. Hang on, let me move this so that it's. All right, and I'm going to be doodling along with you, and people should, again, fire off questions into the chat, because I will try to get to them. And I think that doodling is best done when you're slightly distracted, because you want it to be kind of intuitive, right? So we're going to start off with 3 panels, and I am using sticky notes for my panels, but actually our 3 panels are going to be our first, our third, and our 4th panel. And we are going to draw the second. If you're like me and you're using sticky notes, then
Sorry, y'all. We'll try to get JS back. We'll fix it. Don't worry.
Or, oh no.
You're good now. You're back.
Okay. Okay. You can, if you a character might work through it. So scenario, I'm going to draw classic site of a lot of where my doodles took place, which is the lecture hall. We'll have 5 minutes to do this. Is my audio still cutting in and out?
You're okay. You're okay now. I'll text you if it starts up again.
All right. So the prompt right now, we are drawing a panel where you can imagine yourself doodling, or where you can imagine a character doodling. So, maybe a scene where you're bored, where you are kind of figuring out, if there's something else that you can do other than pay attention. And yeah, so we're just kind of setting the scene right now for why you might be doodling. And you can kind of ask yourself this question too, as we're thinking along through this. What reason do we have to doodle? What is this compulsion to draw, to move, to create these alternate spaces that we can be in? So we're doing a panel set up like an L right now, because our second panel is going to be our doodling panel. And we don't want boundaries for our doodles. We want the doodles to move all over the place. But yeah, I feel like I'm giving all of my characters buns today for no reason. Sometimes if you're drawing outside of the panel, that works too. Let's see. What will this lecture be on? We have just about a minute left for our scene setting sketch. Just a scenario where you can imagine doodling. And actually I've written that we're talking about Shakespeare, which is very exciting for me. It's not something that I actually find particularly boring, but it is also something that I would find myself doodling through most likely. All right, now, hopefully you've left a panel blank for your second panel, and we're gonna jump into our the second part of our workshop now, which is the actual doodling part. And just let loose. Now, I think that doodling can paradoxically be both mindful and mindless. It's mindless because a lot of our doodles, right, they're almost muscle memory. They're ways that we've drawn for so long that we just kind of do it without thinking. And that's part of what helps us be mindful in a weird, ironic way, because we can kind of listen and exist and think while we occupy our bodies, right? Because otherwise I would be playing with things like my fidget cube. I have a fidget ring as well. But doodling is one of the slightly, or maybe slightly more conspicuous ways of working. And one of the interesting things about doodling is, when you kind of review your doodles as a collective, you sort of find patterns of ways that you think, ways that your hand wants to move. And sometimes it's kind of a call out post where you're like, oh yeah, I'm just sort of drawing everyone in the same left angled face way, which I've finally gotten myself out of. But when I do it, it reminds me of being in high school and drawing my favorite anime characters. And yeah, so really, I want you to doodle how you doodle. I want you to not think too much about working narratively, and we are going to return and sort of reevaluate our doodle, and we'll have a full 10 minutes. Sorry, I didn't say that earlier, but we'll have a full 10 minutes to kind of do this part of our doodling. And as you're working, you might also find yourself wondering, like, when I doodle, is it to get out energy? Is it so that I can pay attention to something else because I'm just kind of overflowing? You know, I find dependent on my mood, the quality of my strokes, the way that I want to doodle. Sometimes a doodle turns into a full scribble. Sometimes it's very pleasant and floral, as it's being a little bit right now. And when you're thinking too, you might think about the scenario that you kind of originally started, why you started doodling, because right, if you are listening to something else, or you're in a situation that you're in a lecture or something, you might even imagine objects in your sort of subconscious experience entering in. Or another kind of mindfulness while you're doodling that sort of brings us back into our spaces. You know, you find yourself looking at the folks that you're talking to on Zoom. You find yourself looking at your lecture and drawing them. I have plenty of drawings of certain professors throughout my college years. Or you might even think about, you know, you might even start to get narrative with your doodles and start to create spaces within this kind of formless space and see the possibilities of like, what's connecting these things here? Or they might just be empty boxes, because sometimes all you see is space and there's nothing in it.
Yes, what kind of pen are you using?
I am using a Kuretake pen, and yeah, this is the fine point one, but they have a variety, including brush pens, but this is a felt tip. You know, if you need to expand your doodle as it kind of moves, you might even start to engulf other panels that you had planned out. And at the end of the day, this is a doodling workshop, and the doodle is sort of the core of what we're after, right? It's almost counterintuitive to be doodling purposefully and undistractedly. I'm finding it to be kind of a curious experience. In part because I think so many times when I am doodling, it's also to kind of give my body a way to follow the paths that my mind is already going down. Because, right, it's sitting in stillness and listening can be difficult. because you feel your mind wandering and your body kind of wants to follow, and you want to even maybe write some words. Words can be doodles. I know that often we kind of draw. I don't know, if I wrote down doodle, what does that do? We have just a couple minutes left of fully immersing ourselves into, yeah, just the kinds of lines we want to make. And at this point in my doodles, or in my doodling, I'm kind of searching for spaces that I can keep moving, keep filling it up. Which I feel like is often the case of, you know, what I'm looking for, at least when I start doodling too. Just looking for a way to exist in time, in a body, not to get all abstract and philosophical while we're just, you know, moving our hands. And yeah, I mean, add color, doodling names, yeah. Writing names over and over again. I would also write my Chinese name, which I don't always remember how to write. I'm getting really organic as we're closing this part out. The cat. No doodle is finished without a cat in it. All right, so now that we have kind of let our mind run wild, I want you to just like take a full minute and look at what your body or what your mind wanted you to do, what you felt compelled to do, or what maybe was kind of uncontrollable. I feel like my hand was shaking a little because I'm nervous, and so I had to make a lot of these tiny little marks here. But I want you to just think about, or take a moment and look at your doodle and think about what you see here. Where did it get you? Where did it get you from this initial prompt that we had of like, what is a scenario that you want to doodle in? Why was this what kind of erupted out of your pen? Is it a space? Maybe your doodle is a space. Maybe it is, maybe you spy a character in it and you're like, hey, I kind of recognize this. I was watching a movie that this person was in. Or maybe it's just really abstract, expressionistic, and you can kind of see your emotions displayed on the page right now. In any case, we're going to go down to what is our third panel, and we are going to explain what we've doodled. Now, this can be in writing, or you can draw a self-portrait of yourself having drawn this, or you can even draw kind of the initial scenario and, you know, what do you see in this doodle? Is this something that you can unfold into a narrative? Is this something that you can explain with an emotion? Is it something that is just observational? You know, did your cat pass through your background and you were like, ah, yes, my cat, and then decide to draw a cat, which I kind of did. Now I'm going to take a look at mine, and we'll take another 5 minutes on this panel to just kind of synthesize and think about why we doodled. And I, in this, if you can see, or if you're watching while you work or just listening to my voice, I'm going to start with a self-portrait of me back in college doodling at this lecture. Except channeling also the energy that I have right now, which is all nerves. And as I'm kind of seeing, because the act of doodling for me is always about kind of seeing and processing what you're working through. But I'm in this particular panel, I'm kind of combining how I currently feel and what I might imagine is happening back in this English 101 classroom. And though I am not over-caffeinated today, I probably am doodling and cannot contain my hands or keep them still because I am over-caffeinated, as you know, when I was 19. And so I would doodle to get out all of that energy, have a person next to me kind of being like, what the heck? Why is this person aggressively doodling? You know, maybe because this is my classroom, we have our professor in the background being like, turn to Act 2, Scene 1, which I do not remember what is happening in Act 2, Scene 1, probably because I was doodling during class. Let's take one more minute, or a little bit less than 1 minute, to finish this panel that explains the doodling. And if you need to expand your panel, I'm doing that right now. All right, and then we move to our final doodle, or our final sketch, because, you know, I feel like this was our primary doodle, and then we have our comic moving around alongside it. And with this panel, if you didn't already in your third panel, I want you to return to your first panel and ask yourself, what has changed over the course of this doodling? What have you realized about your own way of doodling? Has it given your character an outlet to let go of all their energy? Has nothing changed? Maybe, you know, after this 10-minute session of doodling, or your imagined longer session of doodling from that initial scenario, maybe nothing's changed. Maybe they are still stuck in that Zoom meeting, or, you know, maybe you want to make it a little bit of make it a little bit of a joke. Maybe they've gotten caught doodling, and, you know, what are the consequences? What are the consequences to that? But yeah, in this final panel, we're going to wrap it up by bringing it back to the beginning and being like, what has changed since you started this doodle? And in my case, I, as the character in the bottom right, have gotten so immersed doodling that I did not notice that the rest of the lecture hall has already left. but maybe your doodle was more more revelatory than my doodling session here. And maybe the doodle provided a space that your character or you were able to escape into. Maybe they found themselves leaving, you know, this boring little box where they first needed to create another space to enter into via doodling, right? But in this case, I'll go back and add a clock here. Just to show all the time that has passed. Also maybe, you know, in this final panel, you want to enclose the entirety of the doodle into a panel too. A massive thought bubble that is going to stretch beyond the edge of the paper. Because, oops, I just drew onto my table. It really did go beyond the edge of the paper. But, you know, the point of doodling is to get us somewhere. And sometimes it'll be something that's narratively significant, and other times it will just be a way to get by and to let out some of that energy to exist in time. I feel like some of my language and words today are channeling all of the yoga videos that I'm doing on YouTube. Just like, yeah, just let your body exist in time. Breathe, move your hands. Feel the line moving through your fingertips as you finish off this last panel. Or, you know, I've kind of already gone back to doodling because I did finish my last panel. Big ADHD mood. And yeah, as you're finishing up, we are going to move into the most exciting part of our session tonight, which is when all of you get to share what you have been working on alongside me. And I just first wanted to say, you know, thanks again for doodling with me, and I hope that you got something out of it. Even if it was just, you know, letting out some energy and creating some good vibes on your piece of paper. But yeah, find what feels good, exactly. Yes, so if you would like to share, I think that there are directions in the chat box right now. I'm gonna switch my camera back to myself. So if you would like to share, raise your hand, and then please tell us your name and where you are zooming in from, and then show us your piece of work. So I think I see Rizwan. Hello. Go ahead.
My actual name is Azir. Let me turn off my virtual background.
Awesome. I love your virtual background.
So over here is where, this is just fictional, but I imagine that I would be like in a forest doodling. So over here, I'm doodling next to a tree. And then it shows what I'm doodling. And then over here, it shows what I'm doodling and like what I was thinking. And then at the end, it shows that time changed because I was doodling so much.
Wow. And you were all the way back. Were those dinosaurs that I saw too? And you doodled all those dinosaurs alive. That's incredible. I'm such a big fan. And those dinosaurs looked fantastic too.
Thank you. Oh yeah, I'm here from Rockland, California.
Cool. Hello to Rockland. All right. I think we have our next person, Rosalie.
Hi, my name is Rosalie, and I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. Thank you so much for doing this today. So, in the first panel, I am in a Zoom meeting at work, which is very common. And I'm thinking Zoom, 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 work, work, work. But I'm dreaming about spring. And over here, this is backwards, I think, but it says, it's spring, can't I go outside? And then I did what you suggested before you even said it, made it a giant bubble that my body's in my chair. I'm still at work, but my brain is playing outside. So thank you so much.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I love that we were already on the same page with that. And the colors are so beautiful. Yes, I'm so excited for spring. And I'm always just like, I can feel the sun beating in. And I just want to be outside. And I'm stuck in this Zoom for an extra few minutes. But yes, doodling helps us get somewhere else. Thanks so much for sharing. All right, I think we have Chris next.
Let me try and flip the camera around. There we go. So I did, there's a lot going on here, so I'll try to walk you through. So I chose the subway. So I'm just sitting there doodling. It's just empty just because I didn't feel like drawing anybody else at the time. And through that, I realized that I drawing a lot of vines and long lines that interact with each other. And there's also these, which are unrelated. So kind of doodling that in my little tiny notebook that I keep in my pocket. And then it zooms back out and the subway is just jam-packed full of people. That guy's actually squished between two people. And then I tried to make it a bubble. And it kind of works. I like that guy.
Yeah. No, it's great. I'm a big fan of how you've ordered these panels and then how it's all very organic, right? And you have the bodies and then you have the path and then you have this giant bubble and these roots or like neurons or something firing off.
Yeah.
There's a lot of visual resonance. Like I feel like I get a very good snapshot of kind of your art style.
Oh, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Zosie and I'm calling from Pasadena, California. And so I'm just in my ancient Roman class. Here, let me see. Can you see it?
Yeah,
so
we can see
going
that.
like blah, 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 Roman stuff. And I'm like sleeping. So, and I tend to doodle French fries with faces and pencils a lot and elephants. And then I just went crazy with the third panel and just drew swirls and a cat. No drawing is complete without a cat, like you said. And not much has changed, except I have no idea what my teacher is talking about now. And I just drew little squiggles where she's talking. And I'm like, what? Wait, what are we doing?
That is too relatable. I feel like most of what I hear when people talk in lectures, not when all of you are talking, is just squiggles. So I think that's the perfect representation of, kind of what's happening in your brain while you're doodling. Also, ooh,
using.
Oh my gosh, yes. We love a real elephant. Thank you so much for sharing. That was so cool.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
All right, so I did the first panel is me at my old house. I used to doodle on the couch with my dog, and then kind of had an emotional day. So there's like kind of some droplets happening, maybe tears, and then a skull appears in the background. And my reaction is kind of like, oh, like this is where my mind has wandered to. And then last panel being kind of like the meta look of me watching my hand about to draw my hand in the last panel.
That is beautiful. I love how much you've managed to communicate emotionally in it, even wordlessly. It's so powerful. And I love how the last one, you really kind of just get that entire snapshot of everything. I wish that we could see underneath the hand so we can see like the endless recursive loop.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. That's so cool. All right, next person.
Hi, whoops. Okay, this is Martha and Nicholas from Providence, Rhode Island. I'm gonna have to turn off the background so that you can actually see the drawing.
I feel like your background is already like doodle energy.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Here we go. Okay. Let's see. All right. So we start with a rabbit and he's on Zoom and he says, Zoom is so boring. And he's dreaming about a carrot, a cosmic carrot, and that's going all over the place. And then there he's thinking cosmic carrot. And then in the last panel, he's thinking, oh, I'm hungry. And yeah, that's kind of my Zoom experience, you know.
I am such a big fan of this rabbit character. Also, oh my gosh, I'm just so blown away by all the detail of the cosmicity of the carrot.
Thank you. Thank you. Nicholas, do you want to quickly show yours?
Sure.
Okay.
So I'm just sitting in some sort of class and I'm just drawing and I'm drawing like a waterfall and someone on a pogo stick and there's like a thunderstorm here. So I drew it sideways accidentally.
Oh, wow.
It's like a meteor and yeah. And then I realized that there's a fire drill.
Oh my gosh, that's wow. I love how much happens in that comic. And honestly, I think it's a very cool gimmick to have it turned to the side. You really just use the space. And that's kind of what doodling's about. It's just finding space, reorienting it, you know, turning it upside down, which is exactly what you did. Thank you both for sharing. That's so cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi.
I was trying to figure out the hands thing, but it wasn't popping up for me. But so I have these as doodles. Like I started with this panel and like I think I was like initially like holding myself back when I was drawing it, and then when like you were talking about like doodling, I just kind of like started and like from here, and then I have like this like compulsion to fill the page. And I think for me, doodling is like a way to like internalize, but also like it's like I have this like compulsion to like record everything that like I feel like it's like my head is like this like sieve. So like it plops up onto here, but then it's also like a way for me to like get it out. So this was like really fun. And then I feel like by the end of it, like the way I had portrayed myself and the way I had drawn myself afterwards, like changed a lot. So that was like an interesting way that you had mentioned to like kind of bring it back to the beginning, like how your thoughts had changed. And it really did just in the course of a page. But yeah, so this was really fun. Thank you so much, JS, for
thank you so much for sharing this. This is absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, I think it's so cool to see, you know, how you really kind of allowed it to change the way that you're even drawing over the course of the paper. Me thinking in academic terms, over the course of drawing, over the course of doodling. And I love the way that you know, incorporated the writing, and it's clear that you were really just kind of respecting the doodling process and just letting it take you where it needed to take you. And it was clearly awesome.
Thank you so much. This was really great. Thank you again.
Yes. Oh, your next person. I'm loving all of these so much. I'm truly just blown away, and it's so cool to see, because I feel like doodles are very personal. And it's so cool to see, you know, how everyone is thinking and working. Anyways, passing the mic to you.
Hi, I'm Paula, coming from Detroit, Michigan, and this is what I drew. Generally my mind is somewhere else because I have trouble focusing, so it's kind of like a space themed. And I really just drew whatever came to mind.
That is perfect. Oh my gosh, I love this character. I too have trouble focusing, so I totally relate to your metaphor of feeling like you're kind of in outer space and exploring that. And I think it really comes through. I love how much color you've used too. I mean, I never have time to think through, color as thoroughly as you have. So it's really beautiful work. Thank you for sharing. Hello.
Oh, hi, JS. Thanks so much for this workshop. I draw on iPads. I don't know if I should turn this.
We can see it. We can see it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, now we see your light thing. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, cool. The Post-its are brought in. Do you want to explain it for us?
Oh yeah. So I became hyper aware of my hands because I think you kept mentioning hands and existing in space. And so I kept like drawing a lot of poses of hands. And then when you said to bring it back in the third panel to sort of like ourselves or a self-portrait, I used the hands to like frame myself and realized like a lot of what I do is with my hands, and I'm like, my hands are pretty tired too, but I am defined by a lot of things that are done through my hands, like typing and drawing. So that became kind of a way to see myself. Yeah.
I love it. I am obsessed with the kind of hands that start as a doodle and then they become the frame itself. And you're right, I did talk a lot about hands, and I just love how you've kind of rethought the Post-it mode through digital art. So cool. And also, everyone, you should post your things on social media and tag the Believer Mag. I mean, I think we'll put the accounts at the end, but tag the Believer Mag, tag me, and I'll repost all. I mean, I will share your stuff in my stories. I will not repost it, but I'm just so thrilled to see, everything that people have been sharing. Hello.
Hi, I'm Nathan from the mountains in British Columbia, Canada. I just wanted to share mine because I also did a dinosaur. Okay, and did you have some trick for showing that? Okay, well, it was me drawing at night, and they've just found out that, or they've had some fossils they found that said that the club-tailed dinosaurs may have dug burrows to hide in. So I drew one of those, and then I was like, I am the ankylosaur. And then I liked your leaves, so I kind of yoinked those at the end when my third eye opened about this realization of cosmic oneness.
Wow, I love all of your line work, and I'm so glad that multiple people have drawn dinosaurs, and I feel like we need a whole dinosaur doodling community. I think there's something compelling about the idea of like fossils in themselves being traces, marks, these impressions that have been left by bodies that lends itself well to doodles. Anyways, maybe I'm taking it again into outer space, but yeah. Hello, next person.
Hi. Okay, here we go. So I tried to recreate what I draw during meetings when I'm at work. I usually start by drawing a bird, and then I start creating things around that bird. So cityscapes, ocean, cliff faces,
wow,
zigzag patterns, and sometimes faces of people, no one in particular. And in my head, it's largely just sort of word association related to all the pictures, and nothing really changes in my physical space, but it's a good brain break.
That's so interesting, because even though you say that nothing has changed in the physical space, I'm just noticing it's so interesting that your frames are pretty, two-dimensional, and then you have this really perspectival, 3D space that you're kind of imagining yourself entering into. And I love that you start with a bird. I personally adore birds. I have a poster of pigeons somewhere in my background, which you probably can't see right now because it's dark. But that's so cool. I'm just fascinated by this kind of odd 3D space that you created. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi, I was just continuing to draw. So
mood.
Yeah. So let's see here. So I started with, okay, so I did a different thing. Instead of Zoom, I'm on Teams because that's where I am every day, on Teams, sitting at my desk. This is like an overhead view. So I started doing like the typical doodles that I do, but what I really do is I sketch like what's around me. Hold on, let me get this right. So I sketch what's around me. So I started sketching just what's on my desk here, which is what I do during the day when I'm on Teams. So here's me talking about how my eyes need a place to go. If, you know, when I'm listening to somebody, or in this exercise, it wasn't just talking. So my eyes needed a place to go, so they went over here. And then now I have another page in my sketchbook that captures an experience from my day.
I love that. I think you've also explained something that I feel like I was trying to explain earlier, which is right. Like you kind of immerse yourself into your space and you kind of actually start to notice things a little bit more while you're listening. And it's like being more in your body, even though you're both distracted and like much more concentrated. I'm such a big fan. It feels like something that resonates a lot for me. So thank you for sharing your work.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. So there is absolutely no logic to this. I have no idea. So I started off thinking how much I miss drawing in the coffee shop. And then this was my second panel. A friend of mine just did my tarot cards about an hour ago. So some of this is directly related to that. But then when you said to explain it, I wrote angry hand hair bug sweater boy and his teeny orc puzzle piece friend. I know. No idea.
Obsessed. That's poetry right there. That is something, if you don't publish those drawings, then you should publish that as a poem because, you know, there's something so compelling about everything altogether.
Yeah, right. I don't know what it says, but it says something.
Yeah, well, I hope that character returns because I'm kind of into that character.
Right.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
I think we have time for also 2 to 3 more, but I am just so stoked seeing all of these. Go for it.
Okay. Hi, I am Katie and I'm from the Berkshires. And I took the prompt and sort of reimagined it. And I was thinking about the phones I used to talk on in the 80s and the 90s. So I was thinking about wall phones and the long cords. And that you would just sit there and you would just doodle, like talking on the phone for, 2.5 hours in high school. And then I did a smaller one, and I just did like an Andy Warhol style banana, like a banana phone. So I was sort of all over the place. I didn't really follow the prompt.
I feel like if there's one workshop where you don't need to follow the rules, though, it's the doodling workshop, right? Well, I mean, doodling is what you need it to be, and you created some really cool objects. And also, I am just such a fan of that get off with the phone iconography. It just resonates very, very well with me.
Yeah, I was thinking also like get off the phone, like
yeah,
you could even say that nowadays.
Right.
And it also reminded me of like when we first had the internet in the 90s and you're trying to dial up and you're like, get off the phone. Yeah.
Anyways, thank you so much for sharing.
Hi.
Hello.
Everyone has the same reaction and I do the same thing. It's like you jump. All right. This is mine. I am actually quarantining in my house because now I have COVID. So this is, first I was I just drew, I couldn't think and I just drew when I was at work, going to meetings, PowerPoints and doodling. And then I started out feeling really kind of tight and I didn't know what to do, but then I started having so much fun and just feeling the pen on the paper. I mean, I don't know why I made these little bottles. I had no idea, but at first I was like, what should I do? And so I wrote here, sitting isolated in my bedroom, quarantining because of COVID, finally feeling happy and relaxed with this delicious pen. and I pointed to my haircut, which is where I think I got COVID from getting a haircut.
Oh,
And then I wrote at the end, then I have here, remembering the pure pleasure and then I made little hearts, and I write, remembering the pure pleasure I feel when I doodle and use a great plan. It made me feel less tight and rigid.
I am so glad you shared this with us. I hope that you have a speedy recovery. I hope everyone who's sending you speedy recoveries in the chat will help you manifest a very speedy recovery. And I just love the work that you've shared with us. And, I'm glad that, doodling helped out a little bit.
And what's funny is the word tight. It's like I was just talking to the doctor and I have a tightness in my chest, and now I didn't even realize, but I'm saying I felt tight drawing, like I didn't know what to draw, but then I feel less tight. So it was kind of really helpful. It was really great. Thank you so much.
And also a fellow sticky note person. So
yeah, I love sticky notes.
All right, I think we might be on our last person. Hi.
Hi. I mostly just wanted to say hi, JS, and thanks so much for doing this. But sorry for the old doodle that's showing up here. I basically was just writing about how I mainly doodle when I'm kind of in a bad place mentally, and I find it a very grounding exercise. So I kind of had a hard time like playing with space and kind of expanding a bit. So I feel like I kind of learned something about myself and like the rigidity of panels themselves. And the captions are just kind of commenting on my thought process. But yeah, I found this a very like therapeutic process, and thanks so much again for doing this.
Your doodles, first of all, are gorgeous, and I'm glad that it was a fun experience for you, and that you can play with the framing and the paneling. But yeah, thank you so much to everyone for coming out. It was such a joy doodling with all of you. We've posted the social media that you can tag us at. And also a big thank you to the Sequential Arts Workshop for co-sponsoring tonight. Go check them out. Go check out, our Instagram. Go check out the Believer Mag Instagram. Keep tuning in for future Friday night workshops. And I might see you there, doodling alongside you, except not as the featured person. But have a great night, everyone. And yeah.
Thank you so much, JS.
Everyone else's doodles.
So fun.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Good to see everybody's work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful.